Well, hello, hello. This is Warden Rashid al-Sanna. I reside from the Middle Kingdom. Today is Sunday, and uh, this is the Scadians of Color Roundtable. What we're going to be talking about today are some of the current events that are happening in the Society for Creative Anachronism, and we're going to be talking about how we feel about certain things. So please sit tight, give us a listen, and enjoy the conversation. Like I said, my name is Rashid Al-Sana. I've been playing in the SCA since 2012, so 7 years. Well, 8 years now. Wow, 2020 doesn't count. Um, and well, yeah, I'm mostly into doing a lot of service, especially for my kingdom, and I also am pretty big in the fencing community. I have a grant level award. So for people that care about that, awesome. For people that don't, whatever. I don't care. So looks like it's just me and you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm I'm Amafilo Luciano. In Atlantia, the Kingdom of Atlantia. I've been in the SCA since 1981.
Okay.
I checked it. I have went to a university in '82, and I've been in there a year before I went to that. So I've been
Okay.
since 1981. So I've watched it evolve, whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
So you've been in since '81, since the early '80s. So in the time that you've been in, when it comes to how people see you as as a black woman, like beyond the negative stuff, like what are some of the weirder, like like some of the more overt stuff we already know, like we could talk about that. But what are some of the just weird interactions you've had just from being a black woman in a game that doesn't have that many?
it was. It has been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't. When I started in the SCA, I was in the kingdom. I've always been in Atlanta. I've never been
Okay.
anywhere but Atlanta, so I can only give you the Atlantean experience. Um, I started in Windmasters Hill in
Okay.
Capellenberg, which is the University of basically the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill, and they were absolute. It didn't matter. They didn't notice that I was a black person. They There were so few of us in Capellenberg, period, that and in Windmasters Hill, period, that they didn't notice. They didn't care that I was a black woman. They I played and they played and we played. When at that particular time, Windmasters Hill didn't have enough guys, period.
Wow.
And we were there was 6 of us, I think, all female fighters. And we
Huh.
were the fighting Amazon. We called ourselves the fighting Amazons of Windmasters Hill because there were no guys. A guy that lived in Salisbury, I think it was then, um, which wasn't a thing either. I think it was just part of Sacred Stone.
Okay.
Um, would come down and teach us how to fight. We made armor out of carpet or car parts, or we harvested the what did they call it? Harvested the took the signs down off the poles, and we made armor. We borrowed armor, and we went and fought the guys. And they didn't know we were girls until we took the helmet off, and they
Oh,
didn't care, and were very they were very proud / protective of us. And we learned to fight, and we fought with the best of them. We fought with the rest of them. I mean, they didn't, when I started, nobody cared. We were all playing. And then the 90s rolled around, and they started noticing a little bit, and we got what was called the rhino hiders, which anybody hit them, and they say, nobody, you hurt me. And but
a lot of those guys have blood clots now because they were rhino hiders.
Yeah.
So, give and take.
Bennett ain't in it. Let me see let me get my dress.
Okay.
Let me get my dress, and my dress is my major explanation of the SCA. If I can find it, where is it? Oh, where are you? Anyway, my armor was pickle barrel. I have pickle barrel armor. It wasn't shaped any kind of way. We could wear a helmet that was made out of a Freon can.
The old Freon tank helms. Yeah.
Right. Oh.
So while you're doing that, what do you think happened as far as you went from the 80s to the 90s? Like, why do you think there was a shift in attitude?
Actually, the shift happened when Facebook came along.
Okay.
And everybody began to see people began to say things that they didn't say in the game.
Okay.
And they would mention things that happened that because everybody was everywhere, you didn't see it happen immediately. You didn't, for example, like I told you, the fruit, and I'll go back and do that again if you want me to. No.
Yeah, go ahead. So the cloven fruit.
Yeah. There was a tradition that was cloven fruit. And you could put a clove in any kind of fruit. It didn't matter. It could be a grape. It could be watermelon. And you gave it to the person you liked. And that person would take the clove out in their teeth, chew it so they'd have fresh breath, and give you a kiss. And that was a game. And until the late 90s, it was a given. It was part of the SCA. You knew somebody was going to come out somewhere along the line with a cloven fruit. You were going to, everybody was going to, they sometimes just passed up and down the table. And whoever wanted to actually kiss somebody would take the clove out and kiss whoever had given them the fruit, or take the clove out and give the fruit to somebody else to get the kiss. But somewhere along the line, that became, oh no, we can't do that. That's.
Yeah, and you think a lot of that may have been ruined by people using that as a tactic to be creepy?
Of course, yeah, exactly. But
yeah,
it was also the fact that somebody noticed it was creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody most people it wasn't creepy, but somebody decided it was creepy, and
And
therefore
it took on a life of itself.
so it ruined that particular thing.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
there were lots of little things like that that somebody decided it was creepy, therefore they stopped doing it. There two amusing things that I can remember happening, which
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, they are so not right now, but they were fine then. There was there were ladies who would dance for the king,
Mm-hmm.
and they could do the most seductive dance in the world with a banana, and they wouldn't put the banana anywhere but in their mouth and eat a banana. But it was the most seductive thing you've ever seen in your life. And that went away. And we had at least two kings that whenever he had the main consort and a harem. He was a Viking one of them was a Viking who had wandered into Arabia.
Okay.
And that was his persona legend. And he had his consort, and he had, I think, a wife from every barony, or a wife. Yeah, I think that's what it was. He had a wife from every barony in the kingdom. No, that's not happening now.
No. Honestly, I don't even know if people would even think of doing that now.
And they used to have slave auctions, and they used to, I mean,
That
all
still
these
occurs.
things were
That
things.
still occurs at Penzic, but
Right. Oh, okay. Okay. I've never been to Penzic. But we needed money. That's how we raised money. Um, Baron so and so will dance for you if you pay this amount of money for it. And he go up for auction on the auction block.
hmm.
And this wasn't a black thing, no, though I'm sure you talked about he was one of the ones who was auctioned off. They were auctioning off. They were auctioning off each other.
Yeah, and I think because I'm a little younger,
Mm-hmm.
so I was born in '87.
Right.
So if I saw that as a 20-something, because I'm a completely different generation, I'd
Mm-hmm.
be like, I don't know if I like that.
Right. Right.
Like, so I think what the consensus here is that, yeah, it wouldn't be okay today, but a complete indictment of people that did that prior, like,
Mm-hmm.
I use the C word all the time. It's called context.
Right.
Like, you have to look at the context of the time, like the
Right.
context of the group, the barony, the shire, the college, the canton. All these little groups that are loosely associated with each other are the SCA.
Right.
And I am willing to give some rope
Right.
for
Right.
for people that are trying to explain it in a way like you're doing now that gives context.
Right.
If you just said, we had a cloven fruit thing and you had to kiss the guy if he gave it to you, that's a completely different context. And, it was, you can always say no.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the way it was explained to me was not explained the way that you just explained it to me. So that
Right.
gives me a different light on the subject.
Right.
So I think that's awesome. Like me coming into the SCA, I was 24,
Mm-hmm.
not that far out of college, had a new job. That
Right.
job I just left. And I was just trying to figure out something I could do. I was always in the games growing up. Oh, that's Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie. I was always in the games coming up, and I played D&D.
Mhm.
I was also a jock. I played football.
Mhm.
I didn't see any. It was just, these are all games to me. I
Right.
didn't, the social dynamics of those. Maybe it was me being naive. I didn't see it. And then I went to college, and man, let me tell you, that opened my eyes both positively and negatively. Like,
Right.
there's certain things I can't think about without having a negative connotation. Oh, where are you at the park? I'm joking. I know it's a booth. Oh, 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 wow, that's out there. So yeah, we're just sitting here gabbing, talking about the SCA and our experiences, just in general. You let me know when you're ready. But no, I was 24 something, starting a new job, just trying to find a hobby. That's really all it was. And I always liked history. I always liked the whole King Arthur thing. I always liked the Arabian Nights. Like my
Right.
persona is Arabic. Well, at least Middle Eastern. I don't want to get into like the subdivisions, but he's Middle Eastern. And I thought that was a spin I could always bring to the SCA. Little did I know, apparently other people were doing this too. And I thought I just invented the wheel or something. I'm just like, oh yeah, I picked a Turkish persona. Yeah, and so did those other 10 guys. I'm like, oh, damn it. But yeah, that's kind of the short and long of it. Like, I got into fencing. I could have gotten into heavy if I wanted to focus on it, but it's whatever. I've doing so much stuff now. So Stephanie, I remember when you first joined the SCA.
Yeah, not that long ago. Also, forever ago.
Yeah, like 6 years.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you showed up for a dance practice, and
Heavy weapons actually was my
you showed
first.
up having okay. You showed up at Heavy Weapons first. Okay, I just remembered
Yeah.
seeing
It
you
was
and
heavy
Sean at it.
weapons. Yep, heavy
Uh,
weapons, and then archery, and then dance, I think, and then rapier. I'm not
yep.
sure. We basically just dove headfirst in, and that first year we did 20 events. Pennsic was my 20th event, and like the culmination because we joined right after Pennsic. It was like the first event or the first practice after everybody got back from Pennsic. And I just remember everybody talking about this Pennsic stuff. And I'm like, what the heck? And I think it took me probably like 4 months before I really understood what Pennsic was. And in the
Well,
meantime, we
good. I'm
just,
glad. I'm glad someone understood it. I've been involved 7 years, and I still don't.
it just sounded like the place that I wanted to be. So it's been interesting. My fiance, I've taken him to Mounted War Games and to to both of our events, which was
Hmm.
I think was it like a coronation at one and
We did a coronation, and then we did our regular Mounted War Games, because usually this land is in the springtime. So just
yeah.
so
So
everybody's on the same page, we both reside in Middle Kingdom. We're in the barony of Shadowed Stars, which is Fort Wayne, Indiana. So
yep,
that's
the heart of the most northernmost southern state.
we call that the middle finger of the South.
Right.
I was like, that's not fair. Give Ohio some. Um, but no, like it's interesting here as it is compared to being out in North Carolina.
Right.
Like, it, as far as like how people look at you as a person of color, as a black person that's involved in the SCA, it varied depending on what event I went to.
Right.
Mm,
Like, if I'm going to an event in Southern Indiana, I'm a little bit more cautious. If I'm going to an event towards Chicago, I feel a bit more comfortable.
really?
Same thing. Yeah, it's weird. Now getting to Chicago, that's a different story. There's some towns in between there. Uh, or you going towards Cleveland. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just my mentality that I didn't grow up in a big city, but I didn't grow up in no small little town either. I grew up in Michigan, but everything's pretty pretty close to each other. So driving 3 hours to get to an event, I'm just like, I'll be in the next state. But anyway, it's different. So I'm gonna ask you, Stephanie, like some of the things you've experienced both in and outside of the SCA. How do you think people perceive you, and what are some of the things that you've encountered? Not necessarily overt racism, but just some of the, I like to use the term weirdness, like, you know, some discomfort, you know,
Like
microaggressions.
curiosity.
Yeah. How many times have people wanted to touch your hair?
Yeah. I mean, not as much in the SCA. I mean, my first year, we were just like all over the place, and basically our first year was like kind of like you know, pieced together kind of wardrobe, some hand-me-downs, a few attempts at things, a lot of polyester, a lot of you know, not great fabrics, you know, using like curtains and things like that. I mean, it was my second year. It was going into my second year when I committed to the Ethiopian persona, and started doing that. And it was weird because like I had like questions and people like asking me stuff because like nobody else had really seen that, and like trying to explain Abyssinia or Ethiopia and that sort of stuff. It was definitely a curiosity. I think because the first year that I did, I think it was the second year that was 50 year maybe, and did my kind of persona reception there, and started to connect to other non-European personas and stuff like that. Specifically, no offense, but also non-Turkish, because Turkish was like, you know, it's like
that's a big default, really. It's weird.
Yeah,
our
like
default ended up being Spain.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was when we started.
See, that's a weird thing between the different kingdoms. Like, apparently in the middle, like way before I got involved, like back in the mid-90s, they had this like big Turkish push. It like happened, and then the show Vikings came out in the mid-2000s, and everybody wanted to become Vikings. Yeah. Which I get. It's very comfy clothes. I get it.
That's something that I've noticed that happens in the SCA. Whatever comes on TV, they went through Tudor, they went through Italian Red, Viking. I don't know what's all coming on HBO next time.
Game of Thrones is.
Yeah, I've been saying I've seen people dressed up in things that are very much fantasy, like Game of Thrones. Yeah. It's just, you know, and it's interesting.
I remember one of the events that I actually went to here in Fort Wayne, the one that we had up at Concordia. I don't even think it was a Scadian. I think it was one of the staffers at the school. That was like one of the janitors, like came up to me and like gave me.
That was during Crown.
Yeah. Came up and gave me a hug and was just like, "Thank you, sister. I'm so glad to see, you know, the representation." I mean, and he almost had like tears in his eyes, and that was kind of.
I get that at convention.
Yeah,
well, get that at conventions.
When you go to a science fiction convention in SCA clothes for the SCA, oh my God, there's black people in medieval. There's medieval black people. Oh my God.
See, I haven't done many conventions or anything, mostly because I don't have a lot of money, and you know, here lately, you know, all my mundane stuff has kind of taken over because, you know, the mundane world is burning down. So, but it's interesting how much, you know, like my historical stuff is still, you know, very much relevant. And I was actually talking with my fiance because I want to put SCA memberships on our registry. That way, not only can we support, you know, the flagging, you know, membership, but also so that gives me an excuse to try and drag him to more events.
Just like he seemed like he was enjoying himself last time we had an event.
Well, finances is something that he stresses out about. So like if we had paid memberships for several years where it was like kind of like, you know, that impetus of like, well, we don't want to waste it, you know, that changes how he goes about things. So I'm putting it on our registry. So it gives me an excuse for us to be, you know, more active. So
well, make sure you shoot me a link to that because I'll definitely support that Support the cause.
Right. Well, and we're talking about our registry right now, and that's like a whole issue. Hey, Maya. I'm on a Facebook chat with some of my SCA friends. So, do you have time to hang out, or?
Sure, a little bit, yeah.
Hey, you guys, I'm gonna jump off for a minute. I might jump back on here in a little bit, but it was good to say hi. We should definitely connect some more. Sorry, I haven't been as available for these as I'd like to be.
No, I understand what's going on mundanely, and yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's
good to see you guys.
I'll see you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye. So tell me more about the conventions, because I went to cons before I got into the SCA, and I couldn't imagine going now, especially in garb. Like I'm not like afraid to do it. I wouldn't see myself doing that.
We used to have tables at cons. We do demos at cons. There used to be a con called Stellacon, and it was at UNCG, University of North Carolina at Greensboro.
Okay, Greensboro, all right.
And the SCA had a table. They'd do demos. They'd have people come up and they'd give them a shield. This is back when it didn't matter so much. They'd come up with this. They'd give a visitor a shield and a sword and tell them hit a knife. But again, there's something that insurance.
Yeah, well, we did our demos at our biggest demos, the German Fest that we have locally, and because we're dressed up medievally, it kind of fits the aesthetic, even though there's about 300 years difference between what they're doing and what we're doing, but whatever, it's fine, and I'm not gonna be mad. I get beer and bratwurst. What am I gonna be mad about? But anyway, we still have the kids pick up the armor, pick up the weapons. And we do have one of the knights there, and we just have just hit me. He's like, no, hit me, kid. There you go. That shot would have counted. And then they really get into it. And since I'm a fencer, I'm just like, hey, pick up a weapon. Yeah, you know how people say these weapons are really, really light? Grab it. And they're like, oh, it's so heavy. I'm like, I know, I got to hold that in one hand. And then I do a little fencing demo. And I was like, if you can hit me, I'll give you this gold coin. I'll do something like that. And it was just, I love doing demos. So, to hear that, a lot of groups outside of my local group do cons, I know not right now because, well, you can't do anything.
Right.
Can't really do anything right now, but that might be something that I introduce to my group locally as far as doing that.
It's something it's something that allows you to meet people who would otherwise not know this existed and wanted it to exist. You know what I mean? And you meet all kind of people. But it's when another Black person who is cosplaying fill in the blank sees a Black person in medieval garb, they go, wow, here's another cosplay that I hadn't even thought about. And then you get to have the whole discussion about history at that point.
Okay. So that could be a really good recruitment thing, that recruitment opportunity that I'm clearly not doing.
Right.
That's the biggest question that keeps coming up. How do you get more persons of color? How do you get more Black kids? How do you get more, Mexican kids? How do you get just, kids that aren't, white into this? Because, truth be told, and I know a lot of white people don't like hearing this, you have an advantage when it comes to that kind of stuff, even if you're poor, rich, middle class, whatever, because, there isn't a stigma or as bad of a stigma attached to it, or it's just a lack of knowledge. You don't know that that's a thing you could do, but yeah, if I had known about this as a kid, I probably would have gotten into it sooner, or maybe I'll be burnt out by now. I don't know. But no, I think that's a good way to get more people involved as far as that is concerned. Now, one of the questions I want to ask you, because you've been in nearly 40 years right now, and let me just pull up this question here. Give me 2 seconds. So one of the questions that I posted, scroll. There it is. Is going back to the whole cancel and oust mentality that people have.
Mhm.
What are your feelings on that? Like we kind of talked about that before the video started recording, but what are your feelings about canceling on something or ousting an individual out from the SCA because of behavior, like actual behavior? Post on Facebook, to me, it's not, it's bad. Like it can be if someone's being just awful, like confrontational, putting a bad name out there for the organization, especially if they're a prominent member, like a knight or a peer, or even if they're not. That can, if taken to a certain extreme, could be perceived as really bad, and you should probably have some type of action. But what are your feelings on what's been happening lately with people's banishment when it comes to, or people being asked not to post that kind of stuff on social media? Like how do you feel about that? Like, what are your thoughts generally?
Generally, your opinion is your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as your opinion, as long as you don't affect anybody, if you don't affect me, I don't care what your opinion is. Because I have lots of friends that are really, really, really racist, and they don't know it, and they will never, ever, ever understand if I try to explain it to them. They believe what they believe. And I have friends that aren't Christian, friends that are ultra Christian. As long I don't give them my opinion and I look at their opinion and say, that's your opinion. As long as you don't decide to act on your opinion, you can think whatever you want to think. But when you start acting on your opinion, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah. Like, one of the things that I'm noticing out there is that, yeah, there's some people that's just kind of digging their heels in more. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even matter like what their political beliefs are. Like, it matters to me because, yeah, I am going to skew a little bit more, a little bit more liberal. That's just what it is. I grew up in a union household. That's just what it is. Like, I wish I could shake it, because sometimes I automatically default to like, oh yeah, you got to make sure you just make sure it's union built. I'm like, what? Anyway, but it's hard because for the longest time when you go to an event and you see these people and they're friendly to you, they're nice, they're courteous, they're some of the best people, and then you see the stuff they post, you're just going, how can you have that kind of dichotomy? It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's tough because, like you said, it may be just ingrained in them, and they just can't. It's a blind spot. They can't see what they're doing is hurtful, or can be perceived as hurtful. That's the tough part, the perception of hurt versus something that everyone can agree that it's this. It's when you get into the everyone can't agree on a particular thing. That's when things get murky, and that's where we get kind of lost on social media, because all social media wants to do is amplify. No matter what that voice is, amplifying and causing people to interact. It doesn't matter the interaction. It can be positive, negative, whatever. It needs that type of movement for its business platform to work. So it's what happens when people don't realize that's what's happening, that they feel like the world that they're surrounded by is chaos. The world is always in a bit of chaos. It just is. It always is. It always is. I'm not saying this is the most peaceful time in human history, But according to a lot of scientists, it's one of the most peaceful times in human history.
It's better than it. It's better than it was, but it's not.
Yeah. That's weird. Isn't that weird to think about?
I won't call her my friend. She's in one of the groups that I'm in.
A loose associate.
To me, yeah, that work. When we're dealing with each other, she's the nicest person in the world. She's a wonderful person. I enjoy her company. She posted on Facebook 2 days ago, if they take the N word out of, if you take the N word out of To Kill a Mockingbird, how many rap albums would follow? Now,
I'm trying to like wrap my head around the connection there. So To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper
right,
to NWA.
right.
Draw me this line. Draw me this path.
She said what the post was saying was, if you take the N word out of To Kill a Mockingbird, why ain't you gonna take it out? Why ain't you gonna get rid of all? If you're gonna get rid of To Kill a Mockingbird because it has the N word in it, why don't you get rid of all them rap songs?
Okay, so she's drawn a conclusion on two things that aren't related. And not only that, like, I don't think they should get rid of To Kill a Mockingbird. It's an important literary piece of art. Is it the most relevant book today? In some aspects, yes. In other aspects, as far as how they approach what we should do to, air quotes, get rid of racism, no, it's kind of it's a little bit too optimistic. But I, for the context it was written in, I'll take it.
But I'm saying, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see. And it's one of those things.
That was her.
Yeah.
That was her feeling. Okay.
She
equates the rap. She equates To Kill the Mockingbird with the rap song. Now, I still like her.
Yeah.
She's still my associate.
And it's just, people are gonna have misguided thoughts about things.
Yeah.
They are.
But that's the way she thinks. And I'd never known if it hadn't been for Facebook, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't care. I don't care, but I wouldn't have known that's the way she thinks, because in her everyday dealing with me, she's fine.
Yeah, it's a weird thought. Like I don't, like, personally, I don't see where she's going with that, but okay. Like, if they get rid of this, they should also get rid of this. I'm like, that's weird, but okay. Why are you drawing that kind of conclusion?
Because they all use the N-word.
Yeah, but in the context of, you know where I'm going with this. In the context of a hip hop song, that's just part of the vernacular, because that's how people talk. That's how a lot of black people talk. Not all black people.
But the same thing could be said about the book. In the time frame, that's the vernacular.
Yeah, and I think both contexts are relevant.
Right.
Both.
Right.
I think it's if people are uncomfortable with the N-word.
Right.
And I'll just say the N-word, nigger. I don't know why people are so afraid to say it. It's a word. Your ancestors weren't afraid to say it.
Right.
Like, it's a word. Use it in the proper context. I don't go about my day saying the word spick, because I don't know what context that would make sense where it isn't hurtful to somebody.
Right.
But if I need to bring up the word spick, I'm going to say the word spick.
Right.
It's one of those things. I think we've gotten away from just being honest with people. And well, guess what? Feelings suck. You're gonna feel bad about something. I understand there's particular people, especially when we're looking at something you know, like for example, like the gay and lesbian, the LGBT, LGBT plus community. There's a lot of this intersectionality there. Because if you're a person of color, but you're also lesbian, you're going to be dealing with two sorts of things. And what if you're, to throw another thing there, what if you're a poor Black lesbian? You're always going to be dealing with something. And I think the biggest takeaway I can take about when it comes to social media is, I'm not saying you got to lie, but try to at least keep your front porch clean. like people get on these.
Everybody's looking at social media. Be aware that everybody's looking
social media. Social. Be sociable. Seriously. Like, I love my friends. And on both sides of the aisle, I'm like, look, yeah, I hate Trump too. I get it. But Mom, you can stop posting 25 times a day that you hate Trump. We get it. I love my mom. But there's a point where I had to actually unfollow my mom just so I can have some clearance.
Right.
Have a clear, just have be clear, because getting that kind of negativity every couple of minutes, every time I want to look at my Facebook, my mom's like, oh, look what he's doing now. Like, yeah, he's a terrible person. Move on. We knew this in the 80s. This isn't new. They made a whole movie about that. Back to the Future 2 is about what happens if Trump took over. And this is what happened.
Right.
So it's just like, I'm not saying this, don't think about it. You can think about it all the time, but, again, keep your front porch clean. That's my philosophy. I'm not saying everybody else have that. If you want to use it as a way of, helping with social justice, more power to you. Go ahead. I will help you. If you have questions, ask. It's fine. But also don't make me try to make me feel bad if I'm not going to be as invested in the same ways.
Right.
Like, I got to live this. You can put it down and walk away anytime you want. And that's, to me, that's kind of the struggle when it comes to, for example, working with white liberals. It's tough because they really do have the best intentions.
But they have no.
Often no. Like, very few. I've met a couple of them, like, where they start to realize, like, this is beyond my scope, ain't it? Yep. You are learning. This is called, you're not just smart, you are becoming wise. And it's a tough thing because I'm gonna help as much as I can. I don't want people to feel like it's unwelcoming to do anything. Like the whole beauty of the SCA is the potential of being the most welcoming family that you could ever encounter.
And that's what most of the time, that's what happens.
Yes.
But then they show their feelings, what's behind what they are when they're not in the armor, when they're not in the medieval dress, on social media, and everybody has a heart attack.
Yeah.
What difference does it make what they think, as long as while they're in medieval dress, they're, I want to say medieval people, but that's not exactly it.
They're not. You're always going to be 21st century.
Right.
Like we're straddling two different centuries right now.
Right.
We're all modern people, at the end of the day. Hey, Akbar.
Hello, Akbar. I'll be right back.
Yep. How you doing today? Oh. Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? Oh, there he goes. All right. Hey, Akbar, how you doing?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Great.
Yeah, we were just discussing, honestly, social media and how it influences the SCA, good and bad.
Yes.
So one of the things we were just talking about in particular is, when you go to an event and you meet somebody,
One moment,
or
sorry.
well, that's all right. Take your time. Yeah. So when you go into an event, you've known somebody for years, and then you finally make friends with them on Facebook, and you see that maybe they're, some of the beliefs that they have don't align with your beliefs. How do you deal with that type of dissonance?
How have I dealt with it?
Yeah.
I've had this situation happen to me recently,
Okay.
especially with all this COVID stuff going on, and I see these guys. I mean, I've met some Scadians here who have no problem with, let's say, certain Confederate monuments. Okay, I mean, mind you, my feeling on the monuments are like the pigeons like them. You know, if nobody else had brought this up, I probably wouldn't have even thought about them. But I said, like, dude, if you over the past 140 years, the Confederate flag means something different to people than it did originally. And I tell them in my mind, like when I see someone pro-Confederate flag, they're pro-slavery. Now, they tell me something different when it comes to that. And I'm like, they say, like, you're in the history, I'm in the history, and this, that, and the other thing. I've had guys bash people for religious beliefs, and I'm like, okay, you're conservative and you have these views. I've had people bash other people, which I kind of think is odd. You don't find this much in the SCA, but I do find it because of how people express how they love, how they feel, that sort of thing. And I'm like, if you want to use those type of slurs, go right ahead, but that doesn't mean they have to be part of it.
Okay.
And of late, and I don't know if Amathula has noticed, but a lot of these people who are more conservative mind here in Atlanta are finding themselves enjoying different hobbies. They're leaving the SCA, which in my opinion, I enjoyed these guys when I was around them. I, had food with them, talked with them, and I enjoyed events with them. However, when it comes to what they call liberal, you got your liberal and conservative, and they think the SCA is too liberal for their liking, and they're leaving. And I'm of the opinion, I'm sorry to see that happen, but goodbye. I'm in this game because I'm here for fun. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not here to get into like social debates. I don't care what your politics are. If you do me a favor, I'll do you a favor. I'll leave my political views at the door. When I come into this event, I'm here to have fun, learn about history, put on a costume, make recreational use of violence, and just enjoy people's diversity, so to speak. Like, you don't have to agree with everything I believe in. I don't have to agree with everything that you believe in. You can express those opinions, but I'm of the opinion, so long as we don't have like clashes in our beliefs, I don't see a problem with it. Of late, a lot of these guys, how should I say, they're like, most of them are like in their late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
And certain thoughts and certain beliefs they just can't let go, which I'm like, I'll let that go like a hot rope if I were you, because right now, especially with some of the people I've been recruiting here in Charlotte, the belief system is all over the place. And the reason I'm coming to this meeting late is because I just had a gathering of recreational violence, and we were celebrating it with great enjoyment here. That's why I'm late. And there was a diversity of opinions here today. And okay, if that's how you believe, that's fine. If that's how you believe, that's great. This is how you feel on that subject. While I don't believe that myself, I respect your right too. And I believe it should be like that all over the SCA. You don't have to sit here and bash people because you like they prefer green apples to your red ones.
Yeah. I think the biggest struggle right now is the fact that, like, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you want to, whatever your social media preference is, it's the how quickly you can get an idea across there, and how quickly people can respond to it without much thought.
I love that myself, because like you're not wasting my time, Yeah, and
Yeah, like
I had to write a certain skating. I'm not going to mention his name because he's that controversial. And I've met
okay,
this guy outside the SCA. We were in a different type of setting. You know, I'll go ahead and say I met him at Dragon Con. And for hours I
okay,
spent time with this guy, enjoying his company. He enjoyed mine. You know, he would write me, you know, just to say, you know, various things. And I would write him and we'd talk. And I had to ask him, like, what in the name of Pete started this whole controversy with you specifically over some things you allegedly done? And he sent me some pictures and said, these are people I associate with. These are my family members. Does it look like I'm a racist to you? And I'm like, based upon what you're showing me, I would say the answer is no. So I hear what people say. And in my opinion, I have to ask, how does this affect me as far as the SCA goes? Or when I look at Instagram, Facebook, and all this other good stuff and say, okay, the immediacy in which I'm receiving this information, how does that affect me? It doesn't affect me negatively. I'm the type of person. That's what I've done. I've actively confronted some people who've had some rather interesting and entertaining things said about them. And they further explained it to me that, you know, while they don't feel these things, and people around them may have had some rather interesting and colorful things to say, and somehow or another they got wrapped up in it. I've been playing this game since 1988, and I've racked up a lot of people who are, let's just sort of say, are very colorful individuals in our hobby. And with this, I'm able to approach them in ways in which other people are not.
okay,
So sometimes I read about these things on Facebook more than anything else, and I'm able to pursue it to my satisfaction.
okay. Now, on a deeper philosophical question, I'm going to pose this to both of you here.
Mhm.
Is Facebook reality?
No.
No.
Let me tell you what I mean by reality. Reality is perception. And with
Mhm.
something like Facebook, that perception changes with each and every click of that button. Like I had to
Yep.
tell a friend of mine, you're posting a lot of clickbait, dude. Okay, are you doing this for entertainment purposes? Are you doing it to stir the pot? Why are you doing this? Because I have people who are far left. I have some people who, I won't call them far right, because far right, you know, you wouldn't have me as a Facebook friend. But I have some people who have beliefs
we
and who,
we call them right of center.
okay, let's just say they're right of center, okay? And I understand why they feel that way, and they feel they're losing ground. And to me, I'm like, before you say that, I want you to understand something, that America's changing, and the America in which you were raised, that America has changed a lot. And when you look at the SCA, it's largely Americans. It's largely
Yeah.
Americans. And what we do in this hobby is we tend to bring America into our hobby with us. And with that in mind, from my point of view, it's like I can hear it. I can do my best to understand it.
Hmm.
Um, from my perspective, I look at Facebook. I see what people put on it, and I wait. And there's always some conflicting things, particular with Facebook. Now, when it comes to Twitter and some of these other things, I'm not on those as much. So
Yeah.
my experience with Twitter and some of these other outlets is not as intimate as it is with Facebook. I'm involved in different hobbies which have sent me down rabbit holes, the likes of which I'm climbing out of. There's some LARPing groups that have become very active, and there's some other sci-fi groups, certain fantasy groups that have become very active. And if I look at all this stuff in their entirety, there's some overlap in which I can put the SCA right square in the middle of.
Yeah.
But in this part of the country, and I don't know if Amathula has experienced this, the SCA has like some rather mythic beliefs amongst certain people in various lives. Oh my God, he's in the SCA. He got steel armor. Well, yes, it's called lamellar. Let me show that to you. And it's like, wow, man, in the SCA, you guys do A, B, C, and D, which both of you two have heard a lot. And it's like, yeah, you want to come play? Oh, they won't let me in the SCA because you have too many strict rules. And I've seen that on Facebook, believe it or not. I don't know if you've ever heard of this group called Dagger here or not.
We have one here in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay, well, the Dagger here group in Charlotte has this belief that the SCA is a bunch of authenticity mavens. And
If you,
we,
they have the opinion, they think that they have the opinion, if your armor is not steel or leather, or you can't come, if you can't do any LARPy looking stuff at all.
I still fight in tennis shoes. Like I'm trying to change, but it's just like I like my knees more than I like, looking authentic.
Your health comes first. So
Right.
Yep.
I
already had one accident, so
no. Let's not. You see, let me put it this way: like I should be using a cane because of my knee, but I have this thing called a hard head, and I don't use it.
Prototype rhino hider. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Rhino hiding came up in our. Wait a minute, I can't call it that. Rhino hiding came up today in our foodless picnic, and
you had a discussion about you had an arts and sciences discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, we had that today.
Mm-hmm.
And that came up. We talked about that. We talked about women fighters. We talked about people with alternative sexualities today in our gathering. We talked about people with different religious embraces in our gather today. So today was a day full of all kinds of discussions. This is where like you fight. Well, excuse me, you exchange some rather physical philosophies, and once you get sweating tight,
you did some social distance exercises.
yes, as a matter of fact, where's my mask? Yeah, we agreed to like wear facial protections and take precautions as best as common sense would allow to do this sort of thing. But in my opinion,
share water.
There was water. Yeah, you're gonna drink water whether you're like thirsty or not, whether you feel you need it or not.
Right.
And as soon as these people start drinking, it was like a sponge. They just sweated out too. So, in regards to like Facebook and how things are going in the Society for Creative Anachronism, quite honestly, I'm not hurt by it. I can see how other people can get annoyed with it. I can see how other people can become disillusioned. And the reason why I say disillusioned is because of Facebook, you have the immediacy of hearing other people's views, which are different from your own. And quite often you will disagree with them, as you have the right to disagree with them. However, if you're going to challenge them, at least challenge them intelligently and challenge them with fact. Because facts don't give a damn about your opinions.
They don't care about your feelings.
They don't care about your feelings. So that's what I try to approach. And today, we, like I said before, had a number of different discussions. My concerns in the SCA are quite different from those of other people. In that I feel that overall in the SCA, the powers that be have done a lousy job of selling this hobby. And what I mean by
I don't disagree. I agree with that opinion.
So when you speak to people, speak about the fun first, and this whole business about what I consider Scadianism. Scadianism is when you talk about peerages. Most people, let me tell you something. Like I told some people the other day, and I told them today, peerage does not make you a better person. Making me a pelican does not make me a better person. What make me a pelican made me realize that I have a job. That when things stop, that doesn't mean I stop. That means I find a way of getting things done. That means I find a way to keep the game going. I have to create an atmosphere, and I have to make sure that that atmosphere is enjoyable, and as many people as possible can embrace it.
Yeah, and I think that's the responsibility of everybody, peer or not.
Thank you.
When you have that chain, when you have your when you make yourself known out there that you've achieved something within the guise of the SCA, because outside the SCA nobody gives a damn about that.
No,
even when they're first starting out, they don't give a damn about that.
And quite honestly, they shouldn't.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Only thing that really matters is you having fun, you having a good time. You don't step on somebody else's good time.
Yeah. I see a white belt, I'm going, hey man, show me a thing about fighting. Like, just because I know they have the knowledge, or it can at least point me to someone that has the knowledge, because you've been around long enough for them to give that to you. Like, it's just, it's an acknowledgement. And I think some of the people in the SCA get wrapped up way too much in that cookie. They want that cookie so bad that they will sacrifice who they are to get a cookie in a game. That's a game.
That's a game.
It's a game. I know I have disagreements with some of my friends. They see it as it is a lifestyle, just like playing air hockey can be a lifestyle. But it's not mine. Like, I am Marshall. I go by Rashid, but at the end of the day, I got to live with Marshall. If Marshall ain't happy, I'm not playing in the SCA if it's because of the SCA. Rarely is it. It's not. There's a lot of other things I can complain about in my life. One of my few bright spots that's been consistent, even with all the mess, has been the Society for Creative Anachronism. It's a great and beautiful thing. And Nakbar, I agree with you. The people that are on the board need to do a better job. Maybe talk to a marketing firm as far as presenting this as something fun. It's fun.
They're not presenting it at all.
No, it was so hard when I first got into this. Again, I'm the young blood here. When I first got into this, I'm like trying to read stuff about it. I was like coming across like this sci-fi author did what to her kid? That's weird. Okay. Okay. Wait, there's something. Oh, they had a black king in the Middle Kingdom. That's cool. All right, keep going. It's so sparse, and in like the history, it's hard to find history of the SCA. And I know it's hard to find because when we did 50 year not too long ago, it was work. People finding information about our local shire, our local barony.
See, that's one thing I love about okay, here's the thing. People say when you put stuff on the internet, it tends to stay on the internet. And I'm of the opinion, okay, good. So why don't you put good stuff on the internet?
Yeah.
And what you're talking about now, good SCA local history, is something that I'd love to see on the internet and easy to find. Okay, we talk about a bunch of bitching. Let's talk about some good stuff. Like the founding of that shire, who started it, why they started it, who was
the first baron and baroness. Like, these are things that someone should know. And even if our memories aren't great, because that happens, age, it happens, write it down. That's what we have that historian for. If the historian ain't do it, get a new historian.
You know how you're talking about?
How far do we have a historian?
Yes, we have one. We have a kingdom historian. As a matter of fact, they're going around interviewing people. They've been interviewing people at various events. And I believe at some point they're going to try to archive this either in a podcast or something. I know there are people who are interviewing Michael Bedford and Shawned. They had like cameras and everything talking to him about this, that, and the other. I know they tried to interview Logan. Logan was all about it because, he's Logan. And
Olaf.
Okay, Olaf is like one of the best people around to interview about that. And I think they are interviewing them. So, yeah, eventually they're going to interview me, and I'll try not to bore them.
So what you're
But
saying is it's getting there.
yeah, it's getting there. It should have been there a long time ago, but people weren't thinking. You mentioned something about marketing, having someone in marketing. There are these guys who were really into anime, and they want to know, like, can they bring their anime stuff to the SCA? And my view was, not only can you, but let me show you a better way to make anime fun. And they were talking about various forms of fighting in the SCA, and I was telling them about Chinese armor, Korean armor, Japanese armor, all the stuff which we have an abundance of information on, and how you can take that and make it your part of your SCA persona. And you got various households. As far as I'm concerned, you can have a household based upon anime, which is based upon history. And let me tell you how and why you can do that. So before this whole COVID thing hit, there was this convention called Ichiban Con in Charlotte.
Oh, I know about Ichiban Con. I want to
Okay.
go, but it's a bit of a journey for me.
So I asked them, could we put an SCA table up? And the first thing they asked was, this is anime. Do you have anything that's anime-like? And I said, hold on a moment. I'll get back with you on that. And the answer is yes. So I approached some guys here in Charlotte and the surrounding area and says, hey guys, wouldn't it be fun if we made a bunch of samurai armor and fought greatsword at this Ichiban Con? And not only can we like do that, but we can also learn arts and sciences too. So this can be an arts and science project. This can be a service project. This can be a fighting project. And we can do a number of things, which can include the light fighting, like rapier fighting. Somehow or another, I bet we can put that in somehow.
I already know the anime. Like, I'm thinking of one. There's one that's based around the Three Musketeers.
So
there's always a connection.
So one of the former cons of the Great Dark Horde has moved to Charlotte. So that's a source. We talked about that. So I got to help two former cons of the Great Dark Horde move yesterday. So you might say I was hanging out with some ex-cons and enjoying it. But when you talk about selling this hobby, let's look at a diverse audience instead of just a Western European type of thing. And when you get into like anime cons and whatnot, those are sources. You don't have to like spend all of your money on that, but you can at least bring some of that energy, that youth, that vitality into this game we call the SCA. And I'm surprised up until we discussed that in our canton, nobody thought of doing this.
Yeah, I think that's a really awesome idea. In fact, I really do think that's a way of broadening who we bring into the SCA, because diversity is not just what you look like, and I think we kind of get tripped up on that a lot. It's not what you look like or who you sleep with, but it's sometimes diversity in interest. Like I've had personal issues trying to sell the SCA to someone who's what I call nerd adjacent. They're nerdy, and I'm like, you would like this. Oh, I don't really care about the history stuff. Really? Okay. And then I represent it. I was like, oh, I guess I do care about history stuff. That seems like a big time suck. I don't know. They're trying to find that out. I'm like, I'm gonna keep presenting this to you until at least you convince one of your friends to come. Because even if you don't want to come, somebody else will. Like, yeah, this crazy guy keeps talking to me about playing with swords and doing woodwork and doing illumination. Someone's gonna hear that and go, I'd like to hear more about that. Like we were, I personally, before this COVID thing happened, I was like, I should go to some cons this year. And then, well, we can't. So we got to get more creative. I don't want to completely eliminate or even really change the fact that we have the SCA, online SCA, but we do need to shift it towards the positive. We have to, or we're gonna go insane. We're all at home, and all we right now want to do is, honestly, for lack of a better term, bitch and complain.
Yeah, those who bitch and complain.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not saying some of it's unwarranted. It is, but you just have to think about you know, what are you going to do to change this person's opinion? Really? Like,
I understand what you're saying. I grok you. I get what you're talking about. And you said something here that I thought was very interesting. You said something. You used a word that I love. It is called nerd adjacent.
mm-hmm.
And there was a gaming store in Gastonia, North Carolina.
Yes,
very interesting town, I dare tell you. And we used to, the owner of this gaming store, my friend Ryan Graham, said, hey, look, you guys want to have an SCA fighter practice at my store? Go for it. We went for it. And what happened was we would go out. We'll put 4 of us, maybe 5 of us would show up and we'd have this fighter practice, right? And these guys are on their cell phones telling all their buddies to come to this store, and they did. So when they came to this store, these guys were running D&D games, magic games, and all that. And this guy was like, you see, he's fighting in all that armor. Can you imagine if he had a backpack on and everything else like your D&D characters have? So we were an audience. Some people decided they were going to go to SCA meetings and stuff after that, and they did. Some got involved. And I'm of the opinion, had we not shown up at that gaming store where people playing Magic and doing all this other stuff, what I would call nerd adjacent, would they be interested in a bunch of guys and women hitting each other with sticks? That went on so long as I pressed it, but I'm of the opinion, this is not my canton. You're the seneschal. You should be in charge of this. And this is a case where she sort of dropped the ball, this lady. And I'm like, okay. But people always ask, I walk in and say, hey, man, when are you guys going to do that thing again, that gladiator stuff? I'm like, when would you like it? So time
and place. Just say time and place.
Time and place. So, you know, I just mentioned the fighting part, but there's other things too. Like I would love to have a bunch of people show their illumination, show their glassware, their metalware, their pottery, all the costuming that they've made. And, you know, instead of having a bunch of guys fighting at that gaming shop, saying, hey, look, this is some things that you guys can get involved with, and it's fun. Even you LARPers, because they had this group called, I'll think of it in a minute, but there was a LARPing group that used to meet in Gastonia. I don't know if they still meet or not. And they would ask me stuff like, do you do this in the SCA? Do you do that in the SCA? I'm like, yeah, come join us and have fun. For some reason,
it's not Dagger here or
Amp Guard. That was it. It was called Amp Guard.
They're I know some of those guys, yeah.
So they were afraid that the SCA would laugh at them or pick on them or somehow think that their organization was not as good as the SCA, which in my opinion, I'm all for like this. I would share information because I think you two would do the same thing. You two guys would share information about, I know she makes pottery like a son of a gun, and you know, she makes beautiful, beautiful pottery, and I just can't get enough of it. And I know that given the opportunity, she would say, okay, here's my pottery wheels, here's my clay, get your hands dirty, you know?
Yeah.
And some of these organizations, I mean, if it wasn't for this COVID thing, yeah, we would probably have, I'm not saying stop playing Amp Guard or Dagger here or any of these other things, but I had to quit going to the Dagger here group because, you know, when we talk about selling and you talk about nerd adjacent stuff, I don't want these guys to give up Dagger here to play SCA. Does that make sense to you?
No, I get it.
You play Dagger here. We can make chainmail together. I can show you guys how to make lamellar. We're doing leather work here in the SCA. Here, let's show you some skills that you can take the Amp Guard or Dagger here, and we can have fun. We had this thing called a day in the park in the canton of Charlesbury Cross. It's a free event, so bring your Amp Guarding butt over here and have fun at a free event. You know, the food is free.
We had something similar like that locally here, where we were meeting in the park. That, you know, the bad guys were over there. They were fighting, and you know, we had the SCA thing, and there was a lot more of the Dagger here people than it was of the SCA, but they kept coming over. They kept looking, I was like, okay, yeah. And I was just doing my fencing thing, doing my spiel. You got to have a spiel. You know, just going over like, this is how you get in the guard, blah blah blah. This, do this, do this. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah, come join in. Like, I think, yeah, the COVID thing really put a damper on, you know, a lot of the plans that we had. But and I think a lot of the negativity, especially when you're just sitting at home and you can't do what you normally do,
Getting grumpy.
You just get grumpy.
I've seen people get grumpy. I guess people, I don't know. Maybe you two are like this, but with me, we have found a means. We've found a way of, like today, of getting together and taking a new person and bringing them into our fold and say, this is what the hobby is. This is what the hobby is not. The king is like, you know, he's this guy who has responsibility, but he's not like the high poppy. He should not, or the queen should not, you know, be demanding all this stuff just because they're in the position that they're in. Because come on, let's be honest, the dude like became king because he got lucky in a friggin' fight. So,
and that's the thing. I love that aspect of it. A lot of people want to change that. I'm like, look, I've seen what happens to other groups when they try to restructure that. If our pretend king and queen are made pretend king and queen at a pretend tournament and they win, whatever. Why does that matter? I would love to see a rapierist become king, but there's enough people out there that are cross fighters. That's already happened. Like
in this.
It's just, to me, it's just people want to change stuff when they don't need to.
That's not the way it is here, because they don't cross. They don't really cross, do they?
Really?
Here, increasingly, that is the case. We're getting a lot of heavies playing with rapier here in Atlanta. Okay, to be honest with you, this has not been a long-term thing, and you are right. It is just starting, but the truth of the matter is, it's starting and it's happening.
Right.
And 3 weekends ago, I was at what was once called Triplet Arms. It's called Zen Warrior Arms now.
Yes, Zen Warrior.
Elkin. And they were talking about how many of the heavy fighters in Atlanta are now picking up rapier. And we have more rapier fighters in this kingdom than we have heavy fighters. And I like that. And the reason why I like that is because it keeps the energy flowing. It allows play. And when you allow play, you keep the energy going and people are having fun. I believe that is the sort of thing which propels the hobby. And the fact that I remember in 1990s, early 90s, when people were rapier fighters, we used to call them wire weenies. And I remember when there's a group of 5 of them, and one day approached me and says, hey, look, man, you hit too hard with this game. Maybe you should stick to like fighting heavy. And I listened to that for a while. And things kept coming up with me, which prevented me from doing the rapier thing. Mainly, I was marshaling heavy. Then the whole combat archery drama started in my kingdom. And I had to focus on the combat archery drama and propel people in a way that, okay, there's an archery only event we have here in Atlanta called Southern Atlantean Archery Day, SAD. And one of the things that they were getting a lot of were these people who were heavy fighters who want to do combat archery. And SAD only wanted to have target archery. And that started a rather lively debate, which could have gone south. That could have gone south, but I'm just of the opinion, I'm glad it didn't. I'm just saying, hey, look, it's like this. You guys are heavy archers. Why don't you like leave your armor in your car, take your bow out and shoot some arrows and just have fun, okay? And these guys looked at me, they looked at one another, like, yeah, okay. So I told the autocrat, look, seeing how you got a marshal in charge here, in charge of the archery, in charge of the throwing weapons and everything, why don't we just do this? Let me do some combat archery authorizations. There won't be any combat archery beyond that. They'll just put their armor away, and we'll have fun. Can we do that? And she said, well, okay. So that's what happened there. However, people are going to be people, and rapier gear came out. And the thing, these guys says, you said you didn't want to see heavy. You never said anything about rapier. And there was this, but, you know, these guys had their fun. So, Amathula, you're going to see more guys fight rapier from the heavy side. I have a mask. I have availability to some discount archery gear, thanks to my friends at Zen Warrior. And who knows? I may get out on the field and get my Dark Canyon on.
Okay. Yeah. So it seems to me, I'm sitting here with people that have probably done a lot more heavy combat than I have combined. What do you think I can do as a rapier fighter across the alley, as they say? I was thinking siege. I would love to do siege.
If you can get one of them things built, go for it.
Luckily enough, our local armor builder, Armor John, builds siege weaponry. So
I have all the stuff to do siege except the armor and the machine.
Okay.
And building.
Well, if you need someone to sell you one, I can talk to John.
I need somebody to sell me the armor, or you gotta help me make some buckets.
Okay, how about this? Amathula, if you get a 55-gallon plastic barrel, okay, I will drive to your home with a smile on my face and tools in my van. And I will spend how much of your time it takes to get your body armor made, your joint armor made for your elbows and knees. We can even make you a gorget out of this stuff, enough to get you going and get you on the field. And after that, we can work on other things, like maybe get you a coat of plates or something like that. But, you know, we can get you started, and I'm glad you let me know. Akbar is your friend. So I'll be more than happy.
If I've got to see, I've gone through all the trouble to be a marshal, and I've got to fight before I can marshal. And I fought eons ago, so I've got to re-up my fight so I can marshal. So you have another marshal.
I have marshal friends. Let me ask you this: you ever thought about rapier? You ever thought about fighting rapier?
I got everything except the sword to do it.
Okay, well, the swords, you know, we have friends who have spares, so we can get you on the field doing that rapier thing. You know, it's a lot of fun. So get that cardio.
Well, fortunately, I have a sword. I know I'm over here in Indiana, but you know, I know how much it costs to mail one. And it's one of those swords I'm like, you know, this is the sword that kind of got me through that second wind. I love that sword, but if it needs a happy home, I can rehome it.
So there you go. Get out there and face score some people.
It's fun. It's fun.
Get that sword right in his eye.
Yeah, but I'm thinking for me, I do need to talk to some people locally, and maybe, you know, once we could actually do stuff legitimately, you know, actually start talking about siege, because
I encourage siege. We have this whole siege thing. There's these guys that were getting together at events. They were holding these siege workshops, talking about various siege machines that you can make for not a lot of money, and you can put these things on trailers and carry them around.
Mhm.
There's some cantons up north in Atlanta. They have canton siege equipment. So I tell people like basically you're gonna armor up as a light fighter, and there's lots of different ways to like get that armor on. So I think the most unique siege armor I've seen was some two Chuck ladies who had pretty much a brigandine corset.
Mhm.
So you know, I mean the girls were shaking, but they were protected. So
I might have to. You know, I have a light kit already.
there you go, a light kit. Well, I mean, like with a few things, you can take a light kit and make it legal. So you
Oh,
know,
I know.
it doesn't take much.
Yeah, and I
So
think that would just be a fun thing to contribute to war, because as much as I complain about Penzic, I still enjoy it immensely. It's
my
and
biggest,
another thing. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I understand what you complain about Penzic. My biggest complaint about Penzic is tear down. So all right, take care, you two.
Set up and tear down, but I'm never there for setup.
Never been.
Do you have any desire to go?
Yeah, but it costs too much.
No,
Okay.
cost. Okay, hold on a moment. Because okay, wait a minute. Maybe I'm jumping the gun because I've been doing this for so long. Because I have the pavilion, I have like the bedding, I have the.
No. It's
Okay,
not. It's not. I got the stuff. It's getting there.
getting there. That's you know what. You know what. Um, just for a few bucks in gas. I mean, I'll stop by, pick you up, and we can go.
It's
If
a
it's the
good
gas,
time.
You got a deal.
okay, good. We'll shake on that.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
it's a good time. I hate camping. I love going to Penzic.
Okay, you see, that's just it. You know, when you talk about camping for years, I mean, years I had a rope bed, and I had a rope bed, throw out my what do you call that thing? A futon mattress on it,
Right.
and at Penzic, I guess I just love the smell of that canvas. Okay, when I'm walking around any type of like camping event now, more often than not at night, I'm finding some fire and I'm drumming around that fire. Then I put the drum down and listen to some guy or guyette tell some story, sing some song. And of late, there's been lots of food in Atlanta. So watch your calories when you come to SCA events. These people now like taking out grills, throwing bacon and stuff on it, you know?
Well, I'm just
Like, whoa.
saying, since Atlanta is situated in some of the best barbecue country in these here United States, it's understandable, but there might be some smoked meats involved.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So yeah, I don't know if Amathula knows this a lot, but there's been a lot of grub at a lot of our fireside entertainments lately. These bardics. I know, like you know, it's just a skating thing for people to imbibe in alcoholic spirits, and
But they've started adding food to their drinking.
Well, yeah, you got to curb the alcoholic intake with some type of roughage.
Right.
yeah. So as far as camping goes, like the rain and whatnot, yeah, you got to deal with that. You
It's not that bad. I've been to the other camping situations. I was a Boy Scout. This is much more. Yeah. This is much more. It's much easier to do than.
Remember him?
You feel better?
Hey,
How you doing?
fine.
It is Amathula.
You feel better?
I'm getting there.
Okay. I
It's
know it's pretty hot down there.
it's a slow process.
Yeah, she had a stroke, bro. So
Oh, I know. I was trying not to mention it.
Oh, I'll be the first one to mention it because I throw it in people's faces. And I tell them I had a stroke. What's your excuse?
I'll take that.
So
Oh.
anyway, y'all take care.
Yeah, good seeing you.
yeah, I'm doing this on an iPad. My friggin' computer, for whatever reason, I can't get the Wi-Fi working, and I was on the committee for a science fiction convention, and they're using Google, and this thing will not link into Google. Zoom, this thing likes. And I'm like, I'm only going to be, you guys are talking junk at this meeting, and I got this SCA thing that I've been doing for the past few months. And you're going to talk about the philosophy of a science fiction con. You know what? I'll talk to you next month. Just tell me what you want my job to be. I know what the philosophy of a science fiction con is. I enjoy these monthly discussions such as we're having here, where you talk about it.
I think it's really important because, one, we get to see each other's faces, because unless you travel, it's hard to, like, it's nearly impossible. And it's just, that's why I've been trying to make sure that I keep these going. I know we don't have as many people involved today, but conversation has been good.
Well, you know, people, they have their lives going. And it's like today I have 3 Zoom meetings like this. I have one before my computer just said, flip me the middle finger. And I came here, which this works nicely. And this is my first time doing it on an iPad. So I'm glad that works. I was telling Jessica Jessica was in one of these meetings, and she's a new Scadian. And she came right in the middle of this whole COVID thing and hasn't given up yet. And when I see that in a person where they're not giving up, this is, oh no, heck no, I'm going to come and I'm going to have my fun. I enjoy that. Today it was heavy enjoyment, and I'm sure at some point it's going to be some light weapons fun. And I have this idea for a, what do you call it, a gambeson that I could use for light, and I'm looking forward to using that. I enjoy seeing people in different regions of the country telling me about their SCA experience and what has the game brought to them and what it has brought to me. I will say this, and had it not been for Facebook, I probably never, if it had not been for YouTube, I never would have had this reality, this, I'm trying to think of it. It wasn't cathartic. It was just this realization that the SCA that I've been chasing and I've been trying to build should have died in the 90s. And let me explain what I mean by that.
Okay.
There was PNZIC 21, I believe it was, PNZIC 2021, one of those. And it was a whole documentary made on it. And it was a 45-minute documentary, and I'm looking at a lot of people in that documentary who I've met and dealt with. Sir Hiram, right when he was just basically Lord Dude out having fun. I think his name was Master Mel of the Two Knives, who has since passed. They talked to a number of people who I'm looking at who have passed. Did you ever meet Scott Hall? He was a former crown prince of the Middle Kingdom, but he died before he was actually coronated.
What was his Scadian name?
I'm gonna think of it as soon as this meeting is over.
Are you talking about Jafar?
I forgot his SCA name. I'm sorry, but I'll think of it in a minute. But
because that happened with Jafar. He got sick over
Jafar.
Winter.
That's it. It was Jafar.
Yeah, Jafar. Yeah, he got. Yeah, that was. See, I'm a young fella. I didn't even know the SCA was a thing at that moment. But I did read about it. I went back. I had to go through like some Yahoo chats to actually find people talking about it. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We need to make sure with all this technology, the fact that we can do this right now, we document things.
Yeah, and what made me realize how bad my whole sense of this game is when I'm looking at that video. And what you had then that you damn sure don't have now, at least in this kingdom, East Kingdom, and a few others I can think of, is you had what was called strong baronial units. You may have those strong baronial units in the Middle Kingdom, but I'll bet you dollars to donuts that they're dying. And I'm sitting here looking at this video, looking, okay, I remember that baronial unit. I remember that baronial unit. Those are the Kitty Hawks. And you saw a field just full of guys from Windmasters. There must have been like maybe 50 of them at that point. And I'm thinking, and I'm sitting here looking at, well, there's Sacred Stone. Maybe there was like 20 of us at that point, you know. We were still trying to get our dung together in Sacred Stone.
I would kill for 20 right now.
So I'm sitting here looking at this video going, in the SCA, we don't do that anymore. That's gone. And it's like, hello, the 90s just sent you an email and they want their, you know, they want their ideas back, like right where they belong. And I'm like, okay, that's what I've been doing wrong. So all this pushing and pushing and pushing I've been doing, I'm sitting here looking like over in my backyard and I see this big pile of plastic that I'm reluctant to throw away because I can cut some more armor out of it, but this week is going. My wife counted and I counted is think about how many people I got in the armor just by taking a plastic bucket and cutting it, heating it up, bending it on them. It says, don't end your SCA career in that. I think at one point I counted over 23 guys who are still active. And they've done this. And there's been a number of guys who hadn't. And I'm sitting here looking at this video going, I see what you're trying to do, James, but you can't do that anymore. So now what's happening with me personally in my SCA realization, when you talk about the reality of Facebook and some of these other groups and how people express the SCA on them. And what happens with me is I'm looking at today, 2020, and I got to look at what's happening tomorrow, 2021. How am I going to make this game fun for me and fun for other people? Because one thing I was telling these guys today is like, look, man, the SCA is full of interesting individuals, and you're going to hear people talk about their personas. You're going to hear people talk about this, that, and the other thing, and it's all done in fun. Don't forget, you got to have fun. If it's not fun, this game is useless. I mean, the young lady today thought I was going to get upset with her because she wasn't getting in her armor fast enough. And I told her, hey, look, you know, this isn't the Marine Corps. This isn't the Army. You get in your armor when you get in your armor. You know, you'll be ready when you're ready. You're a grown-ass woman. You know, I can't tell you what to do. You know, I'm just glad you're here, you know.
Like, you showed up. You're 50% there.
So
I take that.
So I'm like, I'm not in a position to get upset with people. I can just say now that I can turn my energies elsewhere. I can stop looking at baronial candidates and saying, okay, what the hell are you doing to like build a baronial fighting force? I can take that off the list. I can stop saying like, okay, look, as far as martial activity goes, which includes horse, which includes siege, which includes rapier, which includes all this other good stuff. When you throw an axe at a board, to me, that's martial activity. And
yep.
I stop
Action.
saying, okay, I can stop saying, what are you going to do to promote that? And I can say things now as, what are you going to do to bring people into what we already have and keep them in? And what can we do to make this game enjoyable? Now, what's happening here in Sacred Stone, we are transitioning from one Baroness to another,
Okay.
to some couples. We're getting a new Baron and Baroness. So right now we've taken a polling for their excellencies, so to speak. And I'm of the opinion that, like Zoom, like we're talking now, we've had an interview with all of these people, and practically all of them said the same bloody thing, to the point where it's like, is there a real difference? Well, I know them all individually, both as individuals and as couples, and if any one of these guys get selected for the job as Baron and Baroness, I'm going to be happy with, and I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, which is you know, trying to dupe new people into coming and having fun with us.
Trick people into having fun.
Somebody asked me, hey man, is the SCA like a cult? I'm like, no, because Colts tend not to kick you out. And of late, we've been kicking people out of the SCA by the dozen. Like, oh, hell no, we don't play that here. So I look at this game now, and I look at what I've been doing since the early 90s. And I look at what I want to do and finding that courage to do it. And basically it's to speak to people whom I have not approached before and say, hey, look, I have this game, this fun. I think you'll enjoy it. Come with me. There was a certain reluctance to step on other people's games outside of the SCA, which is very similar. Mm-hmm. Outside the SCA, there's this group called the Empire of Medieval Pursuits. I'm not sure if you ever heard of them or not.
It sounds familiar.
Okay, well, they're trying to get a foothold, and they were asking me to assist them. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I see what you guys are trying to do. I have a much better game than what you're trying to embrace. However, this is what you want to do, and it'd be wrong for me to like say, okay, I see what you're trying to do, but come play this game is better. And I did not feel any guilt when I say the SCA is not the best game, you know, because we've been around the longest. We've been around the longest because we're the best game. And I told them I would help them as best I could. But, you know, this whole COVID thing hit. And Amathula knows a lady who I'm going to speak about. And okay. I told them, look, I'm in charge of medieval BS at a science fiction con, which gets lots of high traffic. And we've gotten some success from this convention. Now, if you want to, I will share table space with you guys in the Adrian Empire. If you bring your flyers, you bring something other than people sitting on their butts saying, come join the Adrian Empire. They did that at a Comic-Con in Lincolnton. And I'm like, okay, did you get any prospective people willing to join the Adrian Empire? And I'm not sure if you heard about this or not, Amathula. Mm-hmm. Did you hear about the Adrian Empire at the Lincolnton Comic-Con? Mm-mm. Okay, they were at the Lincolnton Comic-Con.
You gotta come to States with us. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. I told them, look, I'm not against people joining the Adrian Empire because I think I had one of the first chapters of the Adrian Empire in Charlotte called Mirkwood in 2000. But the people I had then didn't realize it takes work to make organizations like this successful. And they didn't know that, you know, hey, you have to find a place to hold these events. You got to find things to put in that space once you hold the event. And you got to make this game fun. I told them that in 2000. They're like, hey, man, well, we're just going to play SCA. This is too much work. Which I'm like, okay, come play SCA because it's too much work. If you just want to, like, put down your money and go have fun, go do that. But the way I'm looking at things now, I have to decide where am I going to get the biggest bang for the buck. And one of these things that this COVID has taught me is that actions like this, where I'm speaking to a man in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I'm speaking to a young lady who's up the road. Where do you live, Amathula? Is it in, I want to say it's near Linwood? Is it near Ashboro? Okay, Ashboro, sorry. Ashboro.
Oh, you're in Ashboro. Okay. I've been through there.
They have a zoo there. So anyway, I'm thinking, at some point when the COVID's diminishing, I don't want to stop what we're doing here. Okay.
No.
Right.
No, this is not a replacement for the SCA. This is a supplement.
Yeah.
And it should be. This is one of the best things I think we can do on Facebook now is constantly connect in a positive and progressive fashion. For example, you're telling me about some of the things that you're doing in Fort Wayne to make it successful. And I see no reason why I can't attempt to do that here in Charlotte, probably even replace some of my bad ideas with some of your good ones. So I would love to keep this up. What's more, we can have like a fighters roundtable where we don't have to fight. We can just get on Zoom and say, okay, look at what these guys are doing. Follow this YouTube and watch what these guys are doing. We can do this.
I'm involved with several of those type of things. Like there's one where we're going over Nicoletto Gigante, one of the fencing masters, and that's my heart. Like I love late period, probably post period, fighting, and it makes me happy. And it's the fact that I'm able to do this class without physically being there. I don't think we should stop doing that type of stuff just because we have events to go to. Because this is the kind of stuff we can do throughout the week if we have time.
Go.
Right.
You know, maybe not on Saturday, but maybe on Sunday. You know, like we're doing right now, where we have a roundtable. Like, okay, I just went to an event yesterday. Let's talk about that. You know, and build a community beyond just our baronies, our shires, our cantons, our colleges, our all our little localized groups. It's still great to have those. That's your family. But ain't nothing wrong with having extended cousins.
In the early days of the internet, there was this thing called the Rialto, and that was BBS based.
Okay.
Well, it started out BBS based, then Rialto went to like a text-based internet, and people were sharing so much stuff there that you had to really stay on top of it in order not to miss anything. And when I look at what the possibilities of Facebook are, like maybe like this chat can be archived on Facebook where we're talking about various things, us three.
It's all being archived. That's the thing. Everything that we've recorded, talked about over the last several months, I'm all recording it. In fact, I'm putting together a show based around some of the conversations. It's just, let me tell you, I don't know if any of y'all done video editing, and I'm an audio person, like I get it, but like video is just another wrinkle that I'm just going, I'm glad I didn't take that in college. I would have quit. I would have quit quicker than you know what. But anyway, so I have plans for what we're doing here. I'm just trying to find, because there's a lot of content, and it's all good stuff, and that's the problem. I'm running out of. I'm like I only got this is gonna be a 5 hour. This is gonna be a 5 hour talk if if I let it happen. But no, I'm archiving everything because I think, like we touched on earlier, it's important to remember the positive things.
Oh yes.
If someone 20 years down the line looks at whatever form of the internet it is, where it's all like I don't know, it's all attached to your brain. I don't know. I don't want them to look back and go, wow. Ugh. I want them to go, oh, that's really cool. Or I don't want to ignore the negative side. I just don't want that to be the only legacy that's left.
If you can learn from it, and let me explain what I mean. If you can learn from it,
yeah.
If you can take something negative and say this is why that's negative, and turn that around. Give you a small example, just a very watered down version of what could be negative, is when people are not renewing their SCA memberships, and we are suffering some financial challenges because people are not renewing their SCA memberships. This is a perfect opportunity to start a campaign of recruitment and showing videos of people doing positive things, and that's all over YouTube. And to me, if people can make silly videos of people dancing to strange and weird songs in armor and in garb for laughs and for giggles and such, just as sure as the day is long, you can bet your bottom dollar that they can make videos saying, this is why you should come have medieval fun with us and meet new people from all walks of life and just have a great time celebrating this gift we call history. And to make icing on that cake, that history is medieval castle sieges, rapier fights with taverns and that sort of thing. And this is how we do it, and please come and join us. Yeah,
I think that type of positivity is what I am aiming to do. Like, I see someone like oh, you all right? Yeah, I see someone like Seto out of the mid here. count setup. He's got this thing going on YouTube right now where it's a little bit broader than the SCA. So he's, touching the HEMA, and he's basically doing this wandering samurai kind of thing. Because that's his persona. It's Seto. He's got a Japanese thing going on, and he's coming across all these different styles of fighting. Kendo, and fighting long sword, and different eras. Barjitsu. All these different eras, because he enjoys all those things. So rule number 1: do something that you enjoy. 2, do something that you enjoy and show other people why you enjoy it. 3, profit. I'm joking. But no, you're right. Like, we need to be more energetic about, more enthusiastic about the SCA. And yeah, the Scadianisms that you touched on, we get bogged down in that. I'm not going to say it's a waste of time. Someone thinks it's important, but it's a waste of time. It's not that important. It just isn't. I get people invest their time into things, and they want to make sure they have a clear path of what they're doing. When you're talking to a peer at their wow, my brain just slipped for a second. When you're talking to a peer when they're doing their vigil, the thing that they commonly hear is, "Oh, just keep doing what you're doing." People hate that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, what else are you supposed to say? The reason why you got where you are is because you were doing the thing that you were doing. And I try to say this sarcastically. Truly, I mean this. Keep doing what you're doing, or make sure that you are educating people around you so they can keep doing what you were doing. Because it's going to end if you pass away and you don't pass on that knowledge.
Right.
I say something similar to my proteges when they talk about like serving. I say the best way to serve, I'm going to be honest, is serve yourself first. Make yourself happy first, because if you're not making yourself happy, you're not making anybody else happy. So I want you to make a list of all the things you want to do in this hobby that's very enjoyable, and get self-serving about it. Very self-serving about it, and pursue it. In my case, that I enjoy doing. I'm going to be honest. It was so bad with marshals here in this kingdom, whereas if I'm going to be honest, if I didn't marshal, there wouldn't have been any fighting. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
And you think like people look at that and like learn like, wow, maybe we need to get more marshals. Oh, don't worry, Akbar will do it.
Akbar's got it.
Do it. Yeah, Akbar will do it. Gee, gonna have any drumming? Don't worry, Akbar will bring his. He always brings his. So it was like that for the longest, and now it's gonna be like, okay, I'm willing to train some of you calculators so that you can become marshals. And while you're in training, I'm going to be swinging my stick, and I'm going to be having a great time.
Yes.
So I like to learn more leather work. I like to learn casting of metals, and that's what I want my arts and science to be. Just having fun with it, like you said. Finding other people. I mean, if I was to really do a service that I think would be unique and beneficial to the SCA, I would find a means of saying, okay, people, look at this fun hobby that I've been pursuing since 1988. Come have fun with it with me, and let me show you how. Let me tell you why you should be doing it. Have you seen Game of Thrones? You can do that here. Have you seen Lord of the Rings? Oh, let me tell you the things we can ring here. Okay, so I'm like, come enjoy this. You like the Three Musketeers? We got some tears for you. So bring it on. I mean, I was telling this guy, like, well, there's a site that'll let us do it now. But, we got a lot of gun bunnies in the SCA. And I'm like, why can't we, like, have, like, a period firearms that we know work, and just have a demo of period firearms? And speaking to a site owner, he says, period firearms, huh? I like the idea. So now I got to talk these guys into, I don't have to talk them into it. They said they'd do it if I just.
A Turkish rifle.
Mm-hmm.
There is such a thing. You just have to.
Yeah, oh no, that's what won them many awards.
And here we go with the A&S. All you got to do is research it.
Yeah,
See,
I've come across them just like going like, oh, that's how they got the Budapest, huh?
So
and all the rapier people had their extra little pistol that they.
Oh yeah, I have to find them, but I have some rubber band guns that I like to keep in my waistband, and when it's legal, I like to pull it out and go, oh, you think you got me? There you go. There you go. Right in the face.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I like to set up the range with that rubber band gun range. Come on.
It's about as accurate as the pistols were at the time period. Honestly, probably a little bit too accurate.
Yeah.
A little bit too accurate. And, I've never been shot, but I've been shot with a rubber band gun and pellets and BB, unfortunately. I don't want to actually get shot. So if I can play in that realm and not actually get, have to go to the hospital, it's a good time.
You have to use something other than rubber bands, because then we'll rhino hide a rubber band to death.
Oh, I'm talking about just setting up like a target, like a silhroom, and shoot those.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun.
Right.
Like setting up some bottles.
That's like thrown weapons.
Yeah, it really should, because it doesn't get used enough. It really should be right next to thrown weapons. You got your spear, you got your axes, you got your throwing knives, rubber band guns.
Sure.
I'll take it.
And I'm really going to giggle at some guy, hey man, why can't we actually use black powder? I'm like, for common sense dang reasons.
Because it's an explosive. Are you like, don't ask them, are you insane? Because they probably are. Not everybody has this sanity. But I digress.
Tell me about Lexington right quick. Lincoln right quick.
Oh, okay. That was a Lincoln Comic-Con that they hold every year. This year they had to pass up on it because of that, the corona. But we were going to go again and put on a SCA demo, and the Adrian Empire was going to talk to me about a table at Con Carolinas. I mean, I talked to her about that at last year, about holding an Adrian Empire demo at friggin' Con Carolina, which I'm more than willing to do. However, I need communication. I just can't say, wow, here's the Adrian Empire, and have empty seats there, You don't do that.
I'm also in Adrian Empire, but the way they have done this, Charlotte is in with Tennessee. It's not in with North Carolina. It's in with Tennessee. So because reasons.
Okay.
Reasons.
Okay.
So
all right.
If you want to come to anything east of Charlotte, let me know, and we'll do it. Okay. anything east of Charlotte, everything west of Charlotte and down to South Carolina, that's not us.
Okay.
That'd be that's confusing. That hurts my head.
You
think it hurts your head?
It hurts ours worse. Would you like to know the quick and easy, down and dirty?
I like to know how that happened.
One set of people owned North Carolina and South Carolina. North Carolina said, nobody's paying us any attention. You're doing everything in South Carolina. So we're going to ask the bosses, can we break off from you? To satisfy them, they said, they picked out they split it off the way they wanted it. So they took everything, the people who had it originally lived in Fort Mill, South Carolina. So they took everything from Charlotte West and everything in North Carolina from Charlotte West, because they had friends in Tennessee and friends in Asheville, and then everything from South Carolina to Columbia. There was another girl, the one that I was telling you about, that was my friend, but she had weird ideas. She got everything from Columbia to the coast in South Carolina. And we got everything in North Carolina. Everything else in North Carolina.
Okay. So explain me this, because my wife used to be involved with Adrian Empire, I think many moons ago, and she's explained a few things to me. So based on my research, so correct me if I'm wrong, this was like, what's the difference? Because I know it was started by Scadians.
The difference until this year was Adrian used real live steel and SCA didn't, which changed this year.
Yep. Okay.
So
for armored combat, it was a thing in Adrian Empire that you're hitting someone with a sword.
Right. And that was the only difference.
Okay. People know that that's still not how swords work, but okay. Right. I'm standing on my elitist tower. That's not how swords work. But I have a rubber stopper at the end of my blade, so what am I talking about?
That was the only. They also at the time they had rapier and SCA didn't. But basically they're actually the same thing now.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of other historical groups that seem similar to the SCA that were spun off essentially by Scadians. Yeah, like I get it, because somebody got all up in a huff 20, 30, 40 years ago, and now we have this whole separate thing that's really not that different, but if you squint, it's basically the same. Got it. Okay. Is that how we got Dagger here too?
No, Dagger here started off of some Tolkien aficionados.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the orcs and stuff.
I was Dagger here before I was SCA, so I went Dagger here, Markland, SCA for me back in 1983. And in 1983, I bought an SCA membership for a whopping, pocket burning $10.
Woo!
$10 a year.
Back in the day.
Back in the day to join the SCA, $10. Burnt the hole in my pocket.
75 for a family? I don't know.
Okay, so I could have saw 2 movies for that. But anyway, I at the theater with popcorn. But I joined the SCA, and I was in the military at that time. And I remember coming home thinking, okay, wow, I had fun joining the SCA up here in Northern Virginia, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to find these people in the SCA, and I'm going to have fun. I came home to one of the most malodorous, misbegotten sons of pox-ridden harlots that you ever want to meet in your day. These people, man, were like, none of them play SCA now, but when they played it then, they were like, you have to earn your way into the SCA. We don't know you. We're not going to help you. And we're going to ridicule you.
Where he lived. Like I said, where I was from, they were just getting started. They didn't have a clue. He'd been around Sacred Stone had been around for a while. And they were clique-ish as you could get. You could not know, if you didn't know the right people, they would not even talk to you. Same way with Adria. If you and Adria is still the same way. If you don't know the right people, you can't.
Like this, not to interject, but like they all know that they're just being nerdy, right? That's just
No, no,
okay.
they don't.
Oh, they actually. They have.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I tell this story at a science fiction convention and had some people snicker because they actually knew a real person like this. In fact, even knew he had the same name. But I made up a name, called Sven the Skull Smasher, right? Now, Sven the Skull Smasher is a plumber, okay, during the rest of the week. But on the weekends, he's one of the most hard-drinking, Vikingistic sons of guns you ever gonna meet. Beats everybody, and everybody loves Sven the Skull Smasher. And they make him a knight. Then he wins Crown Turn. He becomes a king. On the weekends, he's like everybody loves them some Sven. But during the week, that brother is turning some pipes, and that becomes his reality. That becomes his self-identity as Sven the Skull Smasher. Okay. And I was just using that as an allegory until someone told me they knew this guy named Sven the Skull Smasher because, well, married to him. And he wasn't a plumber, but he was a pipe fitter. And that's pretty much what he was like. And she wanted to know, where did I meet him? I'm like, I was just making this
Just
up.
made that man up.
Okay, but that's what people like in the SCA. And, then some phone calls were made. so
Wait. Question is, was the real Sven the Skull Smasher? Did he actually become a knight?
Yes.
Did he actually win crown?
Yes.
Oh my God!
I didn't know this.
That's uncanny. I'm serious. That's uncanny. You basically just manifested this man.
I was pulling this out of my storytelling arts, and I said this in a room party that was a Scadian room party at Con Carolinas. And Sven turned out to be a count, and he was a landed baron of New Orleans. So that's how that went. So anybody archiving this, looking at this archive, could probably look this guy up. But to me, you can substitute Sven for like Brianna the Nimble Fingered or whomever you want. Okay, That's how people see themselves. They become known in this game. And people ever ask me, does that ever happen to me? I'm like, well, let me explain. I've been doing this since 1988. I can introduce myself at a con when I'm not at some event. I'm usually at some sort of con enjoying Klingonism, Star Trek, Star Wars, or some other science fiction enjoyment. And I see my friends there, and it's like I can introduce myself as James Morrow. Hello, I'm James Morrow. You can trust me. If I introduce myself to you on Fridays, James Morrow, by Sunday, you're calling me Akbar. So
everybody knows
that's
Akbar.
how that goes. Everybody knows Akbar, but I can't find a brother to go to dinner with on a Monday night. But it's part of that whole new reality that I'm talking to you about. When I meet people in these various events, my goal now is to get them to an event and say, this is fun. Whether you're at a science fiction convention or if I'm meeting you with this new thing going on now called the Manticorian Navy, which I'm a member of that too. That's gained a lot of traction. So to me, it's like, how do we sell this game? And we keep coming back to that in this discussion, not only here but other places, about how do we get the traction to bring people to this game. And I'm telling, take popular media. If I can take the Game of Thrones and I can sell you on the Lannisters and show you how the Lannisters were called the Borgias, and they were called a number of different names in history, the Plantagenets, and a number of other names throughout history that they based these fictional fantasy families on, then I can say Medici very easily. But
Medici's, the any of the Tudors, the whole any
you
of
see
it.
where I'm going with this. So you can take something from fantasy,
I
pull
can
it right
go,
out of history.
or I can go to Black Panther, which was everybody when we went to our con. That's what everybody said. They saw a black person in a medieval looking outfit, and they said, "Oh, you from what part of Black Panther?" I just went with, "I'm a medieval person from Black Panther." But we were the Africans in Spain, or the Africans in the Tudor court, or whatever. We are the people. We are the people from Wakanda who went to visit or work or be ambassadors to somewhere in Europe.
Okay. So what both of you were saying is I got to get my bardic game up so I'm better at storytelling.
That's an aspect of it, but I suppose what I'm really trying to say is I meet a lot of people in different fandoms, and I could easily turn that fandom into what we play in the SCA. I mean, heck, I can take this whole Wakanda thing. We can start a Wakandan household, and you want to see some stuff roll in the SCA then?
All we gotta do is, which one is it? Stelios. Put Stelios standing out front, being Black Panther in his armor, and they'll come. Mm-hmm. They will come.
Yeah. Speaking of Stelios, have both of you seen the podcast that he did about I don't even know the gentleman. I think he's been banished. Gallon. I can't think of his name. Yeah, Gallon. Have you guys seen his spiel on him?
Is this the guy who's in Texas?
I think so.
The one he broke down.
There's one podcast I look at, and I should say I look at it. Actually, it's a YouTube, and it's I didn't know if that's Stelios, great. But I look at that, and I use that example of what I don't want to do, because mainly they are expressing some truths, which, yeah, it is the truth as you understand it, and you're showing me examples of what you've seen with your own eyes and what you've experienced with your own senses. So you're showing a side of the SCA to me, which is there. However, I wish to show a brighter side of the SCA. And I believe I managed to do that. I believe I'm successful at it. Other things I use to sell the SCA, believe it or not, is the Armored Combat League. In that
ACL.
Our fighting can get very intense, but we don't lose fingers. We don't use metal weapons. And once the fighting's over, you can do other things. Like there's nothing wrong with someone brewing malted beverages, and you'll get just as much accolades, if not more so.
There's steel now in Armored, so.
Yes, there is steel fighting.
But it's not, I've seen it. It's not like ACL.
No, by no means. Because we have too many lawyers in this game. And you'll get this thing called sued if you start hurting people. I've seen this fighting at cons, at Dragon Con. They did some Armored Combat League at Dragon Con. In fact, they had what they call the Dragon Cup. So it is a legally sanctioned armored combat event in Dragon Con. And I told these people at Con Carolinas, if we could work it out, I'd love to have a legally sanctioned combat league tournament at Con Carolinas. And they were of the opinion, don't you think we're having too much medieval stuff? You got the SCA, you got dagger gear, you got all these people swinging swords. And I'm like, give people what they want. Does a bar say, I'm sorry, we're selling too much beer here? We can't sell any more beer. I mean, we got like whiskey, you got like rye, you got gin, you got bourbon, you got cognac, you got brandy. Give people what the hell they damn want, which is people want to see some type of, I would call it some representation of fantasy. However, to me, I look at medieval history as the fantasy that was actually real.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a really good analogy as far as like, oh, I guess we'll just stop selling beer now because we have too much beer and people enjoy it. Yeah, and I think you're right. You know, there is a certain aspect of Stelios. I think he's making that for people that are on the edge of leaving the SCA and need to complain, or are needing a place to, you know, just kind of, you know, like a lot of podcasts with just people venting off. So I think it's well within his right to do that. Is it the thing you want to show a newbie?
No, I don't want to show that to a
No.
However, I'm going to be honest with you. And as much as I don't want to show that to a newbie, I think every Scadian should hear it for the very reason that they are showing you things which happen in our hobby, which should not be happening. And we should take steps to end that sort of thing when we see it.
Yeah.
So they've made some rather poignant examples of why people are leaving the SCA. And in my opinion, yeah, people leave it, but you know, let's get people joining it. I'm looking at
people. People have always left the SCA. This isn't a new phenomenon.
That's why
this isn't a new phenomenon.
That's why there's whatever.
There's other things for this, or they just, you know, some people say they age out because I guess all they did was fighting.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, it's just, I think we shouldn't be as worried about that. I think it's scary because it's sudden, because of what happened with COVID. And truth be told, a lot of people get SCA membership so they can go to PenTech, and if PenTech didn't happen, they didn't get not going to get their SCA membership. That's just me. I don't know that, but you know, my gut's screaming at me that's what it is. At least a good chunk of it.
You see, when people are aging out, don't you think you should do something to stop that? You know what I mean? Is get more people and do stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we do need to get more people. You know, and you know, unfortunately, I think people are so focused on the negative side of things about that aspect of things dropping, you know, 5 to 10%. They're focusing so heavily on that and not focusing on, well, there's more people born every day. There's a nerd made every minute.
Right.
Like, you know, maybe idea here, some of the bigoted people that are saying they're leaving and leaving loudly. I'm leaving. Okay, let's go. It's all right, cool. Go, bye. I'm still leaving. Go away.
Okay.
I'm gonna be over here and be mad. Okay, you be over there and be mad.
All right, my friend, it's 4:19 now, and my battery's running low, and I'm gonna have to like get out. So
that's all right. I was actually trying to find a wrap up point.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna make this easy. You two have a nice day, and bye.
Bye.
Bye. So yeah, you ready to wrap this up?
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to show you.
Oh yeah, show me.
I made this. This is my SCA. This is the second dress I ever made in SCA. Out of African material, I put doohickeys, I put conch shells on it. I went through the process because they told me an African person would blend in. So I blended in.
I love the shells. Yeah. Right now, I've been so focused, like I was telling you earlier, so focused on like late Italian or late period Italian, and you know that doesn't really jive with my name, but I don't care. I love exploring history. I love exploring cultures. All these people that we're talking about are people.
Yeah, but like I said, this is African material. You want to be a late Ren gentleman, a late Ren era? Find you some material that looks Turkish and make you a late Ren outfit out of it.
Yeah.
And then you will blend in.
Yes, and you'll feel. And I know, you know, people are like, well, you know, I don't have the best garb. We'll work to that. You know, that's the thing. We need to make sure that anybody that's coming into the SCA, if they don't have their stuff, we help them. We help them. This is what it's about. It's not about complaining on the internet about how things used to be. Guess what? They have their problems too. Stop fantasizing and being nostalgic about a time that never really occurred.
Right.
So on that note, I'm gonna wrap this
Have a
up.
good day.
Yep, you have a good one too. I'll see you in a couple weeks because I'm gonna
All
do
right.
it in probably about 3 weeks. Okay.
All right. See you
All
then.
right. You have a. Yep. I'll see you.